Is what is confronting them in the face and they can't say it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you are just joining us, we are live at the PDP Digital Media Studio, and of course we are chatting with Dr. Don Pedro Obaseki, the Director of Publicity of Obaseki Media Campaign. When we come back, we'll continue with the chat. Stay with us.
Equals to continuity. Obaseki, continue your work. You do Open Stadium renovation. Even we hit the door best. Plenty achievement for your time. Our life will done better. Obaseki Ashaibu. Now them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki. Now you we want to. For the things what you do for it. Now you be winner. Maybe we PDP. No man is guarded. Obaseki, your governor. Forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together. Godwin Obaseki. Obaseki. He's the right candidate for Edo. Plus 4 equals to continuity. Obaseki, continue your work. You do Open Stadium renovation. Even we hit the door best. Plenty achievement for your time. Our life will done better. Obaseki Ashaibu. Now them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki. Now you we want to. For the things what you do for it. Now you be winner. Maybe we PDP. No man is guarded. Obaseki, your governor. Forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together. Godwin Obaseki. Obaseki. He's the right candidate for Edo. Plus 4 equals to continuity. Obaseki, continue your work. You do Open Stadium renovation. Even we hit the door best.
Let's pay our tax for greater Edo.
The Edo State Internal Revenue Service hereby informs the general public, particularly taxpayers in the corporate and informal sectors, that the mode of tax payment remains cashless and can be made through the various payment channels by walking into any commercial bank, online web payment, the use of ATM card on POS, or purchasing the revenue scratch card. Remember to quote your RIN, RIN, or assessment reference number in all transactions. The EIRS has introduced the payment by installment method, Pay Small. With these payment patterns, taxpayers will enjoy a more convenient way of paying taxes, avoid paying in lump sum and unnecessary.
Obaseki, Edo State has one of the most vibrant diasporan communities who the governor has engaged with at one time or the other. Now, these people are not allowed to vote. And how do you think their base would influence the outcome of these elections?
In fact, when we were running through the strategy for the campaign, first I want to start by thanking the Edo diaspora. You have shown that your love for our homeland is unsurpassed. And in the last few months, I have come close to tears, just seeing that what we thought would have been a curse on our people is our single largest blessing. God will continue to bless you. Now, the Edo diaspora have come out almost 90% in support of the governor. And we've gone through about 2 or 3 Zoom meetings where you see thousands of Edo people get in and talking to the governor. Some are endorsing and doing billboards in Benin at no cost to the government or to the campaign, running their own adverts, whether in America, in Spain, in Netherlands, in the UK, in Italy, in Germany. It is out. So why can't they vote? The reason is because we cannot change the Electoral Act. But I think that in the next couple of years, in the next couple of elections, this will be addressed. But however, their inability to vote does not stop them being maybe one of the biggest major pie drivers and influencers of those who vote at home. Because they are the largest single block of opinion molders of our people. Hardly will you walk into a street in Benin and you won't find a diasporan element. Even many of us who live here, we can still say, okay, I live in Nigeria, but all my kids are Americans. So many of us are like that. So these persons are involved in the voting processes because they are the largest outside of government and maybe the very organized private sector, the largest investors in our people. And so as opinion molders, they are telling their folks, they are telling their mothers and their brothers, sisters and their fathers, vote this way, because they've traveled out, they've seen the trajectory, they've seen how it works in other climes, and they will rather have a government that will protect the commonwealth of Edo people than a government that will be based on vile agberoism, willing to share the loot, thief, steal, maim, and kill our people. We have a situation whereby the choices are clear. So the diaspora knows these choices are clear, and they are making their choice as clairvoyant as possible. And I think that because of this Edo 2020 election, which I keep telling people is a reset button for election here in Nigeria, there may be an immediate, very paramount need to take a second look at the Electoral Act so that Edo or Nigerians who don't reside at home can vote, because their vote count, because their money already counts.
Now, the Edo First slogan has been used oftentimes by the governor and a number of his campaign handlers. How does that add to the narrative of development as being prosecuted by the governor, Governor Obaseki?
Everything government does is Edo First. Everything. Edo First. Edo people first. Edo in front. Whether you are a salary earner, you are a woman in the marketplace, you are a poor worker, whether you are a security person, Edo First. Whether you work for Wabaisigan, even the name alone is Edo First. So I think the difference, the main attitudinal and personality difference between the governor and all the others and those who are fighting him is simply because one puts Edo people first and the other ones don't think about Edo people at all. Or when they think about Edo people, they see Edo people as those who have a huge treasury. According to Oshomole, he said that they didn't allow some persons into the treasury because by nature they are serial thieves. I was on Arise TV with Ruben Abati, and he said someone called the governor MOU governor. He said Mr. Oshomole called him MOU governor. He said, but I thought about it and I said, thank God you did not call him an IOU governor. Because he owes no one, he puts Edo people first. The project financing of the government is a project financing rather than borrow. We have not heard now that, oh, they've stolen, 30 billion here missing, because Edo people first. He placed Edo people first ahead of a few 192 politicians who had Edo people hostage. Just 192 of them, one leader per ward, who have had Edo people hostage. He put Edo people first. He put Edo people first ahead of those who either as Akugbe ventures or other kind of dubious ventures will declare 36 million as total revenues collected for Edo State government in 1 year, and in the same bank store 1 billion as their own declared wealth at the end of that same year. He has put put Edo people first by making sure that no non-state actor, nobody who is not a recognized state actor will be collecting revenue on the streets of Benin. He had put Edo people first by making sure that our market roads and our market women are free to do their trades without multiple taxations. He had put Edo people first by making sure that even in the health sector, all the primary healthcare places in Edo State, dispensaries and stuff, are working at optimal level. He has put Edo people first by making sure that in our education sector, all the kids are going to school and they are being taught in primary school in Edo State, for God's sake, with iPad.
Now,
so Edo people first,
okay,
I think is the how will I put it? Is the vehicle in the thought process of the governor and in this ideology to put Edo people first.
Now, what about those that are, criticizing the governor for signing so many MOUs? What message do you have for the
Very simple. I am talking now as Pedro Obaseki, a former managing director in that, a former general manager of DBN, a former this, a former that, former president of Nollywood, a founding one for that matter, and one who has taught in universities, who has been here and there, who's worked here and abroad, that when you want to do a project, you sign a memorandum of understanding so that all the paradigms, all the ins and outs, all the inputs and deliverables are clear. But prior to Godwin coming, there was a fire brigade approach to governance. Nzobu, nzobu, according to the Igbo. Gra, gra, according to our pidgin. You made a chop, make I chop, But his own is different. You cannot be one of those who set up the nation's debt management office. One of the biggest things that have happened in this nation that made the nation get reform from the Paris Club and all the other debtors. You cannot be one of those who have been declared maybe the most successful stock brokering enterprise in the Nigerian nation, who have taken startups, taking big things to the stock exchange, created wealth for the Dangotes of this world by putting them on the stock exchange or by setting up banks, and then come home as a business-oriented man who understands how to handle the processes of doing a project, and all of a sudden you are thinking about doing things the old way. Godwin's MOU, I don't see anything wrong with it, is why we are where we are moving forward. People with a thought process, people who do things properly, do things to the best, to the level of best global practice. That is what is done. You are here. I remember you were one time a general manager with Dar Communications.
Yes.
I remember at one time you were working in the oil industry.
Yes.
And I remember, and if that is going to happen, you think that your SP&G,
yes,
if I remember correctly.
See Petroleum and Gas.
See Petroleum and Gas.
Yes.
So will you enter into any venture without a standing memorandum of understanding that shows clearly inputs and outputs, inputs and outcomes, expectations and deliverables, and then you can now plot it over a timeline? That is what an MOU is about. But I don't blame them. All those who call them MOU governors are those who will say Godwin Imena, who say Nagbe. So when you look at them and place them vis-a-vis you, or maybe me, or all of us in the marketplace, you will understand that it is a result of their lack of knowledge. Persons whose only stuff on their complimentary card is politicians, who have never had gainful employment, who have never either been to school, or where they've been to school, they've let the school work out of them, who have never done anything else but politics. So they will not understand that you have to understand via a memorandum that shows the in and out process before you engage in that process. It's very simple.
Thank you. Now, would you say that the governor has sufficiently touched the 3 senatorial districts within the state in his first term to give him a second tenure? I
remember a video a couple of days ago about Agbede in Edo North, which I hear is maybe the home place of one of the other deputy governorship aspirants or candidates. And roads that had been abandoned since the time of Obamudia had been done by Governor Obaseki.
Yeah.
I remember looking at some of the videos of Ibilo and Lampese and areas remote in Ososo, in Akoko Edo. I remember, if I know clearly, the road leading to Uneme, your place, is been touched by Godwin in Edo North. I also remember that between 2008 budget and the 2015 budget, less than 6% was the total capital expenditure that was used in the last government of Adams Oshomole in the entire Edo Central. Edo Central, where you must traverse before you go to any part of Edo State, was the saw of Edo State. It was like having a huge saw, Bini call it ete, in the very middle of the body. Now, I remember, it may not be a good quote, but it's a quote nevertheless. Mr. Tony and Chief Tony Aneni standing on television to say that the water project in Eastern Land had been truncated because the state government of Adams had refused to put the 30% equity participation when the federal government had already brought out 70%. But Godwin has changed all that. Godwin has changed all that. I remember that for you to traverse between Uromi, Irua Junction, after Altibok, after the Irua General Hospital, and get to Iruekpe, a distance of just 6-7 kilometers, will take you almost 4 hours because the major high trunk A road of the federal government was bad. And the only link road going down from Irua Junction through Ujwele, down straight that whole mission road of Ekpoma to come and bust out at Iruekpe was bad. But Godwin is the first since Ambruzali to have fixed it. So, do I think he has touched it? I say yes. Is it Sobe in Owan? I think he has touched I think the place he has not touched well enough. Maybe, maybe if I look for one thermometer or one compass, I go to look for where he never touched.
Okay, while you are looking for where he has not touched, yes, we'll just take a short, in fact, our last break now. When we come back, we'll take our last question, and of course, we go to our page and take 1 or 2 comments. Stay with us. Thank you.
Forward ever, backward never. Let's go further together. Godwin Obaseki, Obaseki is the right candidate for Edo. Oh yeah, 4+4 equals to continuity. Oh, yes. Obaseki, continue your work, yo. You do Obe Stadium renovation, even we hit the door best. Plenty achievement for your time, oh. Our life we done better, eh. Obaseki Ashaibu, let them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki, now you we want to go. For the things what you do for it, may you be winner. Make we put PDP.
Let's pay our tax for greater Edo.
The Edo State Internal Revenue Service hereby informs the general public, particularly taxpayers in the corporate and informal sectors, that the mode of tax payment remains cashless and can be made through the various payment channels by walking into any commercial bank, online web payment, the use of ATM card on POS, or purchasing the revenue scratch card. Remember to quote your RIN, RIN, or assessment reference number in all transactions. The EIRS has introduced the payment by installment method, pay small. With these payment patterns, taxpayers will enjoy a more convenient way of paying taxes, avoid paying in lump sum and unnecessary court wahala. Do note that tax clearance can only be issued after all outstanding tax liabilities are settled. For more information, visit www.eirs.gov.ng or call 0813-097-0146. This public announcement is from the Edo State Internal Revenue Service.
Pay your part, pay your tax.
Come back to the last segment of the program. Now, Dr. Obaseki, in your opinion, why should the ordinary Edo citizens support and vote for the governor for a second time? Just briefly.
Because we have a governor who cares. Because we have a governor who is here for all of us. We have a governor who had obeyed Oshomole. Oshomole said, one man, one vote, say no to godfathers. So we have a governor who is here for us and not for our oppressors. We have a governor who have come to remove the knee from the neck of the Edo nation so that Edo people can breathe.
Thank you. Now, I did say we're going to visit our page, our Facebook page. Okay, you know, on this program, we read the negative and the positive. And the negative at times could hit you below the belt. So now, this is from Kizito Okohere. He says, my problem with Don Pedro was that he is so much, I'm reading it verbatim, the way it's written. He said, my problem with Don Pedro was that he so much campaigned against Godwin, his own cousin, in 2016, saying so many derogatory things about him. He was with Izeyamu then. If we accuse or show of double talk, is Don Pedro not far worse?
No, I would like to Kizito, if you read, if you watch any of those videos, I never was against Godwin. I was against Oshomole, and I have not changed. So now, Godwin is also against Oshomole, so we are in the same camp. Number two, as at that time, I wanted to run for governor. Everybody, the place was vacant. Izeyamu also was running for governor. The space was vacant. Today, the space is not vacant. I can calibrate Mr. Governor Obaseki based on what I see, not ideas we all have on paper. So it is not a matter of Hebrews 11, it's not a matter of Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance of the things you hope for, the evidence of the things you don't see. This one, the evidence is there, I see. I will be stupid if what I wanted to do for Edo people, I am seeing a man doing what I wanted to do, or what someone says he wanted to do, he is doing it. I am seeing, I'm living, seeing him live out his promises. Even the promises don't matter. What really matters is what is he doing now? What can I see, feel? What can I calibrate going forward? If I am held at the vice grip of those things, I never called anybody a thief. I never called anybody an armed robber. I never called anybody an acid pourer. I never called anybody such thing. I'm too educated to do. I'm not still calling anybody that. If I even mention that, it's because I'm referring to what someone else has said. So please, you will be doing me a huge disfavor if you don't understand my interest. Politics is a game of interest, and my interest is the upward mobility of the Edo nation. Pedro is not on the ballot. I'm not running. The upward mobility of the Edo nation. And as I sit today, this time T, looking at both of them, based on antecedents. One was once upon a time not so known. Now, that who was not so known, that cornerstone, that brick at the corner, is not the head of the corner. He, today, he is marshalling down our paths like a David. And that is why I am here. I am with Godwin, not because he is my cousin, because in 2016, he was also my cousin. So the paternal relationship between me and Mr. Governor hasn't changed.
Thank you.
What has changed is Mr. Governor has performed beyond the expectation of every average Edo man within 3 years and a half.
Thank you very much.
If you take that from me, then you do something to yourself.
Okay, now we'll take just maybe one or two of the positive comments. Emmanuel Ajayi, he says the only achievable realistic government program policy that is welcome in Edo State is MEGA. Another person says Obaseki is the man. Thank you very much. That is coming from Ebong Umofia. He says Akwa Ibom is with you. I think he's messaging from Akwa Ibom. All right, that brings us to the end of today's edition of the program. And Don Pedro has been our guest. As you know, he's well-traveled. He's a beacon of knowledge. He's an ace broadcaster, a producer, a director, a lecturer. And of course, from his use of images, you know, to paint pictures, to emphasize what he has to say, you know, shows that he's a literary guru.
Thank you, ma'am.
My teacher, I must say. Yes.
Thank you
So very much, sir, for coming on the program.
Thank you.
And I will say a big thank you to Cruzo, F.A., IK, Kingsley, Andy, and of course Christopher that have worked behind the scene to ensure the success of this program. My name is Habiba Oyege Oyarepo. See you tomorrow.
Plus 4 equals to continuity. Oh, yes. Dogba, Obaseki, continue your work. You do Ogbe Stadium renovation, even with the best. Plenty achievement for your time. Oh, our life will done better. Obaseki Ashaibu, now them be the winning team. Godwin Obaseki, Dogba, now you we want to. For the things what you do for